I guess it's interesting when we speak about decolonize, also speak about diversify, because I think oftentimes it's honestly until today I didn't quite know that they were different in that way. But essentially to decolonize in my head at least is to make sure that there is no one story. They say history is often written by those that win. And in this case, the English population are the ones that write history. What we then find is that the story is not complete and does not include everybody, if that makes sense. So that's one bit of it. The other bit to diversify is one I think I personally draw to the most is where I want to see more BAME representation in the curriculum. As a young black boy, I want to know that people that came before me have done great things and I can look up to them. It's funny in Salford Uni, law students, a law students have said the only time I see myself in the curriculum is in criminal law. And that should not be the case. We want to see BAME representation in successful areas because we know indeed that if you do look back in time, we have done great things for the nation, for the world, and etc.
It is important to be able to show that there is representation outside of just slavery or being criminals and there's a lot more to the narrative. And I think that's the whole idea about decolonizing and just educating people that there's a bigger, wider story. It's pretty much all about representation and positive representation, I would say, rather than just partial, depending on who's telling the narrative.
There's a difference between like diversification and decolonisation. I think there's one step that's really simple, and that's just diversification of the reading list. So that means including BAME authors. But then when we look at decolonise, it's including those BAME authors, but making sure they portray narratives that aren't spoken about as well.
Ultimately, the goal for me is to eliminate the black awards gap, which is the stats that shows that when you pick a white student at random and a BAME student at random, there is a BAME gap between them in terms of where they get to 2-1 in the first class. So that's the goal at the end of it. That's why we want to decolonize. That's why we want to diversify. Ultimately, the curriculum as it is now is written by white people for white people, and that won't work for me as a BAME student.
There'll always be people who are more genuine in wanting to help than others. I think it's just a question of us trying to engage with those people, with those lecturers. And I know, like, I've had discussions with the library and they're working with, you know, certain lecturers who they themselves are working with the library, like diversifying and decolonising their curriculum, their reading lists. I think us as a students' union, the best thing we can do is, as Ado sort of like hinted to, is just ask those questions and like keep the university to account. Because, you know, we're so fortunate at Salford that our SU's got quite a good relationship with the university in comparison to like the other Manchester universities. So I think it's great that we're in that conversation, and we just need to keep being active in that conversation, I think.
When I educated myself on the actual definition of what decolonize means, I don't think you can really argue that it's a bad thing. And I think if someone argues that it's a bad thing, you should be, once you have like well educated yourself, you should be willing to kind of challenge them on that and be like, okay, but why is it bad to sprinkle a little bit of ethnicity in there? Why is that a bad thing? So I think it is that idea of just, once we've educated ourselves, being able to have open and honest conversations with people